Welcome to the Court of History. I'm Sidney Blumenthal. I'm here with my colleague, Sean Wilentz of Princeton. Amidst the uproar over Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, I'm here in Washington, and it's chaos. Rupert Murdoch is being sued by Donald Trump because the Wall Street Journal has published a birthday card that Donald Trump sent Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday, which he signed with his name as the pubic hair. Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, is now racing to a prison to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell and try and get her to testify, possibly dangling a pardon. Congress has decided that it will adjourn rather than discuss Jeffrey Epstein. They're in a state of flight, and Trump is attempting to distract with whatever gorilla dust he can throw up. What do you think, Sean? Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I've seen plenty of cover-ups before, but this is, a nuclear cover-up. And also the fact that they've been trying to spin the press, on the fact that there's nothing there either. I mean, Steve Bannon has been spinning the New York Times, CNN, others, to say, well, we've really handled it now. The base is it's all untrue. So they're really going out of their way to try and stop this thing, and we'll see. But the business with Maxwell and Todd Blanche, that's extraordinary, and that has to be watched very, very closely, I'd say.
Yeah, well, there's no one who's a better observer of all of this than Michael Wolff, and we're delighted to have him back for another discussion with us. He needs no introduction, but here's the introduction. He's received 2 National Magazine Awards. Among his many books, he is the biographer of both Donald Trump and Rupert Murdoch. He's written 2 biographies of Murdoch, the man who owns the news in the fall. And I want to welcome back Michael Wolff.
Hey guys, nice to be here. The other thing, the interesting point about everything that's got the cover up, as Sean says, is that it's in plain sight. I mean, most cover-ups are, there's some shame attached, and they're carried out in the dark of night. Not this one. We're going down to, we're going to speak to Ghislaine, and it would seem evident that we're going to offer her inducements to say what we want her to say, and those inducements might be as much as a pardon. Which Donald Trump has considered before. When Ghislaine was on trial, he began to speak about to people around him. What will she say? What can she say? Should I pardon her?
Did you know Ghislaine?
I've met Ghislaine. She was largely out of Jeffrey Epstein's life post the legal difficulties that began in 2004.
Mm-hmm. What did he say anything to you about Ghislaine?
Yes. I mean, although this was, I would say he regarded this as one of the compartments that he didn't open very often, but this was obviously a sensitive and difficult and I think complicated subject. I think that their leave taking was with an amount of animosity. I think when his legal problems began, she fled. I think he regarded that as a betrayal. At the same time, I think that their relationship was a peculiar, unequal in many respects. They were involved briefly, and then she became a kind of factotum. And this was also involved with her Epstein's relationship to her father. To briefly recap, her father was a significant British press baron who who pilfered his company's pension fund and was caught for this ultimately, and then who died mysteriously off of the slipping off the back of his yacht. This was in the early 90s, and Robert Maxwell, who was the law was converging on him, and he would have jeopardized a lot of his not insignificant fortune. So he offloaded part of this money, and this is not the first instance of this, to Jeffrey Epstein.
Mm. And that was a part of Jeffrey's early work, wasn't it?
Yes. I mean, Jeffrey was, one of the things that he did, he hid assets. I mean, it was a complicated thing, because there were a whole area here. Part of his early work was, in fact, finding assets. And then he became a hider of assets. Maybe those two things are quite finely related.
Yeah. How susceptible do you think Ghislaine will be to the entreaties of somebody like Todd Blanche acting on behalf of Donald Trump to cover up Trump's relationship with Epstein?
Well, I have no way of knowing that, but I do know that I certainly would be susceptible if I were in prison with little hope of getting out in the near or medium future, and someone came along and said, "If you say this, we'll make your life much easier."
Yeah.
I'll take that deal.
Yeah. Well, door number 1 is the rest of your life in France. Door number 2, you can stay here in prison.
Right.
That's what it is. So, so Rupert Murdoch is stalwart, unlike ABC and CBS, in publishing that birthday card, the salacious birthday card from Trump to Jeffrey Epstein, and Trump is suing him. What does Murdoch really think of Trump?
Well, he can't stand the guy.
Tell us about your relationship with Murdoch.
Well, yeah. I became Murdoch's biographer in 2008 and 9, and published a book based on a year's worth of conversations with Murdoch, with everybody in his company, with his family. I have actually interviewed Rupert Murdoch's mother, and then my book, "The Man Who Owns the News," was published in late 2009. One forgets when these books were published, but so I am, have the, to say the least, for journalists who don't work for Murdoch, I have had the inside track.
Yeah. So this is the real succession story. But Murdoch was indispensable to the rise of Trump, and yet.
Yes, it's such a confusing thing for Murdoch. Yes, he was indispensable, or Fox News was indispensable, and Murdoch has always had a ambivalent relationship with Fox News. Loves it because it makes so much money. Dislikes it because it's because he knows what it is. He's a newsman. He can tell what's going on there. And also, he has an ambivalent relationship to television. He's made an enormous amount of money from television, but he is at heart a newspaper man. And Fox News was largely run throughout most of its history by Roger Ailes, a friend of Trump's. And Murdoch had little to do with Fox News. But clearly it helped enable the election of Donald Trump. And it's another interesting thing that Murdoch always dreamed of electing a president in the United States. I mean, he's elected leaders in Australia. He's elected leaders in the UK, and so a part of his ambition was he wanted his president. And the irony is that the president that he got was Donald Trump, a man who he finds to be unserious, unfit, a tabloid character.
What does he say in
tabloid character.
What
Excuse
does he say
me?
in private about Trump?
He says he's an asshole and a moron, and there's a whole litany of Murdoch words that he has applied to Trump. I mean, I think he could not be any more dismissive and contemptuous of of another person in public life as he is of Donald Trump.
In a way, he's trapped by Trump, isn't he?
Yeah. No, I think it has diminished his. I mean, Rupert is 94, and it has been a painful part of his later years. I mean, there's been a lot of pain in his later years because his children don't speak to each other, and he's had to sell the bulk of his company because of this. But curiously, Trump is one of the things at the center of that. His children don't speak to each other, partly because Fox has alienated several of them because of his support for Donald Trump.
Roger Ailes knew a lot about Trump's personal life and his relationships with women, and Ailes himself had, needless to say,
yes,
a difficult problem in harassment of women.
No, absolutely, but also Ailes, who I have also known very, very well, was himself very dismissive and incredulous that Donald Trump had become first a presidential candidate and then second the president. I mean, he was kind of this is a man who knew Trump intimately, and
who told you these things?
Ailes told me this. We spent a lot of time talking about this.
Yeah, what did he say about Trump's personal life and his habits? Anything to you?
Yeah. I mean, he was. I mean, there are more revealing people on Donald Trump's personal life, namely Jeffrey Epstein. But I think Ailes was fond of Trump, but considered him a clown, a joke. Not a serious person.
You were on Ailes' funeral plane, his plane to his funeral. With an interesting group of people.
Extremely interesting group of people, yes.
Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Yeah, that was...
what was she wearing?
Well, as my wife pointed out at the time, she was not wearing undergarments. So yes, that was. I mean, this was Sean Hannity's plane that we went down on, and my wife came with me. The funeral was in Palm Beach, and that was quite a trip, eye-opening for my wife.
It's interesting that Murdoch is being sued, but truth is always a defense.
Well, Murdoch will. Murdoch has been sued certainly as much as any human being in the media, and this is kids stuff for him. He will handle this with limited concern and the back of his hand. And like the overwhelming number of Trump's lawsuits against the media, it will be dismissed in sooner rather than later.
Yeah, like the Bob Woodward suit was dismissed by
the
federal.
Many of them, all of them. I mean, the the curious thing, they are 100% of them, actually, but we are now in this climate where CBS has settled a lawsuit with Trump, and ABC has settled a lawsuit with Trump. They've all settled them because, as the president of the United States, he's basically threatened to use the power of his office to disrupt their business interests. So the parent company of these news organizations has made the decision to settle, which is something new in the American media. It's new that a president of the United States would sue them. It's new that a president of the United States would use his power to threaten them beyond the lawsuit, to use his leverage to get a settlement. And it's new that reputable news organizations would be so willing to capitulate. So that's the environment that we are in. Rupert Murdoch is not going to capitulate. You can say a lot of bad things about Murdoch, but one of the things that you have to say is that he always stands up for his newspapers. He goes to the brink on this issue. Still, I would say, that this has two effects. First thing, it's a chilling effect on other media organizations who are not like Murdoch and who can't afford to be sued, or who have parent companies who can't afford to be sued. And therefore, everybody in the news business is now living with this threat. We say this, we're going to be sued. Can we tolerate that? Do we want that? Is it worth it? The other interesting thing is, and Trump has this gift for understanding the weaknesses of other people, and he's been going around saying that Rupert is going to die at any minute, and the son is a weakling. Rupert's son.
So you know that Trump is saying that.
Yes.
You hear that.
Yes, he calls up. It's easy to track what Trump is saying if you speak to the people who Trump speaks to, which over this 10 years of covering this story,
so he has
I
contempt
do.
for Rupert too, and he wants him dead.
Well, I think he actually has awe for Rupert Murdoch. And has always tried to curry favor with him, and has always felt dissed by Murdoch. But at this point in time, I think he fairly sees the obvious. I mean, Rupert is extremely old, and Rupert's son, Lachlan Murdoch, who will, in theory, take over this company, is a weakling. And you could easily see that he would take over and settle a lawsuit.
Trump recognizes weak sons.
But he's stating the obvious in many ways too. I mean, that's there. It also speaks to how much he thinks about Rupert. I mean, Rupert Murdoch is someone that he is in awe of, as you say, and he's a serious guy. So he's jumping to the next step, even though he's old, but he's not dead yet, as they say, and he's still there.
Yeah, no, and Rupert and Rupert will certainly hold on, and I think that there is a very good chance that Rupert will live long enough to have this suit dismissed, because it's a preposterous suit. It has it won't last very long at all. But as I say, there is this broader chilling effect.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk for a minute about the model industry that both Epstein and Trump were involved in.
I mean, as I've been having these conversations, these rather public conversations about Epstein and what he said to me and his relationship with Trump, people have said, well, you don't mean that Donald Trump likes little girls. And that's sort of perplexing, and goes to the way that we have that the media has has demonized, spun the Epstein story and demonized Epstein in a way to suggest that I suppose he's a pedophile, and that calls to mind 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds and whatever. But the fact of this, and I can't speak to that. I mean, possibly, I don't know. What I can speak to is that both of these guys, Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, were obsessed with models, and let's do air quotes. That this was a moment in zeitgeist time, the late 80s through the 90s. Models were a cultural touchstone. This had a meaning. I mean, if you were a model, that means actually your age was kind of in the public regard, irrelevant. You were a model, and these guys were relentless in their pursuit. They started modeling agencies. They invested in modeling agencies. Trump had his beauty pageants. Epstein was deeply involved with Victoria's Secret, that company, and the girls who modeled for Victoria's Secret. And so the issue of age and what the age of the girls that Trump was interested in. Again, he was interested in models. What's the age of models? It's under 20. It's, I don't know, 14 to 20, 15 to 20. And as I have said, that I think we can count on the fact that neither of these men were asking for IDs.
Epstein wanted to create his own model agency and asked Trump for advice about what were called T models, or Trump model management. And he also was involved with a man named Jean-Luc Brunel, and also a man named John Casablancas.
Right. They were all involved together in this,
including Trump.
Yes, including Trump. And remember, that's Melania comes out of this moment in time and
out of this milieu
and this culture. Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
Melania sort of depicts herself as outside of all this, but she's in the center of this, isn't she? And what does she know, and when did she know it?
Well, I would say you would have to ask her, but I doubt you will get an answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she knows what goes on, doesn't she?
Yeah, I mean, she's lived a life right out of that world. I mean, I think that she more than, perhaps more than anyone, she actually knows what goes on and what went on. Now, there's a curious sort of, Netflix has paid her $40 million to participate in a documentary about.
That was Amazon. Bezos.
I'm sorry, not Netflix. Thank you, Jeff Bezos and Amazon, to participate in this documentary about herself. So I mean, I doubt we will see her.
Congress
fully revealed in this documentary. I actually read her book, hoping for a window into something. Nothing. That's as blank as you can possibly be. Matter of fact, my suspicion is it may be an AI written book.
Yeah, the House. There's a House committee yesterday voted to rename the Opera House in the Kennedy Center the Melania Trump Opera House. And yet, at the same time, they're calling another committee wants to call Ghislaine Maxwell as a witness.
We can be guaranteed that is not going to happen. But great idea, Sidney.
And what could they learn from Melania if she were to testify?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's one of Melania's charms, so to speak, is that she's possibly the most locked down person I have ever encountered.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what
So
exactly? Well, go ahead, Sidney. Go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, I mean, going back to Maxwell. I mean, what is it that Todd Blanche and Trump are so worried about? I mean, what does she want
Well,
to know?
they may not be they may not be worried as much as they may see an opportunity here, and the
Uh-huh.
opportunity is what we will offer you whatever inducements are necessary, and you'll say that you had no knowledge of the relationship between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. I
Right.
guess that
But
would
she
be
has right.
their home run.
But
Mm-hmm.
presumably
What
they know that she has a lot of knowledge of that about Epstein and Trump, right?
Yes, I mean, yeah, and I think it's, I don't, I mean, they were involved together, and I mean, I think Ghislaine had a separate relationship with Trump,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously she was involved with Epstein, and they saw each other on a social basis, and yes, I mean,
Okay.
she
Right.
knows an enormous amount about that. Yes.
did you ever meet Jean-Luc Brunel or encounter him or know about him? He was the head of a model agency
Of
in
course.
Paris and was a procurer for Epstein in Paris as
Right.
well,
Right.
and also had a condo in Trump Tower. Had relations with Trump.
Yes, I no, I didn't. Not. He's not exactly
He
what
hanged
I would think
himself.
of as someone in my set. Yes, but
He hanged himself after he was arrested in a French prison
right,
cell.
right.
But he's very much part of their world, isn't he?
Yes, very much. I mean, this was, and their world was not an exclusive world. You know, the modeling world was a significant piece of culture, of media, of the general commerce of media and fashion um, and the greater entertainment culture.
Yeah. Well, the media seems not to have discovered it recently yet, while the rest of the world's in an uproar over Trump and Epstein.
Oh no! I think it's a totally remarkable thing that the media has divided between the internet, which is Epstein 24/7, and and the and the um, the mainstream media, if you will, which regards this story with distaste. I mean, I did a podcast with David Remnick the other day,
Oh, the New Yorker, yes, my
of
former colleague, yeah,
yes, of
friend.
the New Yorker, and I mean, I've always thought of David as possibly the most condescending man in America, but he was even more. It was really dripping here. It was like, why do we have to talk about this story? This story is so unworthy of us. And in fact, the New Yorker, to my knowledge, has hardly, if ever, mentioned the name Jeffrey Epstein.
And yet, this goes to the center of understanding the man who was president, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm not sure. I mean, I think it's a multi-leveled reluctance here. Having turned Epstein into this complete stick figure, this just the personification of evil, in which you can only talk about him from the victim's point of view. It sort of robs him of any authority to be a witness to the president of the United States.
Right.
And then
for a long, long time, for many years.
I mean, they were friends for more. Yes, close friends, the best friends, perhaps
Mhm.
the singular relationship in the lives of each of them for
Mhm.
more than a decade. Yes.
Mhm.
So Trump says that he threw Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago because he was a creep, and that's why their relationship
So
broke up.
yeah, completely a lie. I mean, just
Yeah,
another Trump lie.
and the reason they broke up
What
is
happened?
because of real
And
estate.
also by the way, um, and there's no evidence of this. I mean, Epstein was never a member of Mar-a-Lago. Um, um, and Epstein always had a kind of, I mean, part of that relationship and the dynamic was like many people's relationship with Trump, was having a certain contempt for Trump at the same time. At the same time, they palled around. It's like Roger Ailes, a certain contempt for Trump because he was a clown. Um, Epstein, say what you want about him, was also an intelligent person, deeply engaged um, in in the affairs of in economic matters, foreign policy matters, all of these things that Trump was not interested in.
He wanted to hang
So
around Harvard. Epstein did. I mean, the irony there. I mean, he was, talking to people at Harvard. We just
Yeah,
talked to Theda Scotchpole about that the other day. I mean, that was Jeffrey Epstein.
right.
so I'm very curious about what's hidden here about Trump's relationship. Trump had a past history that he hides, which has been documented as an FBI informant. He's attacked the FBI as the deep state and so on. But he was an FBI informant, certainly on a man named Dan Sullivan, who was in his employ through the Taj Mahal Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, who was suspected of mob ties, which he did not have. But Trump eagerly, in order to avoid scrutiny from the FBI itself, served as an informant. And I wonder, um, in the early investigation of Epstein, given Trump's character, whether you believe he might have been an
Well,
informant.
I know that's what Epstein believed. Epstein believed that in 2004 they had this disagreement over a piece of real estate, a significant disagreement, and Epstein began to threaten Trump. Maybe I should just go through this. Epstein, there was a house in Palm Beach that Epstein believed he was the top bidder on at $36 million. He brought his friend Trump with him to look at the house and advise him on moving the swimming pool. His friend Trump immediately went behind his back and bid $40 million for the house and got it. Um,
Let
Epstein,
me just be, and I don't want to stop your narrative here, but Trump at the moment was headed towards
yes,
bankruptcy,
Epstein
Yeah.
under
and no one
believed
would loan him money, and the Taj
exactly.
was about to go belly up at that moment. So it's a very
Exactly.
curious thing of where he gets the loan, and we don't know where the money
Well,
comes from.
yes, and Epstein understood this and understood that Trump didn't have the money, so therefore that he must be fronting for someone.
Right.
And Epstein began to make noise that he was going to sue Trump and reveal this and go to the press.
Who did he think he got the money from?
The man who ultimately bought the house. So Trump bought the house for 40 million. Less than 2 years later, it was sold for 95 million to a Russian oligarch named Rybolev.
And he
And
was a Putin oligarch close to Putin.
yes, and
Yeah.
so Trump believed that he was fronting for.
Epstein believed,
Epstein believed that
Epstein.
Trump
Yeah.
was fronting for Rybolev. So Rybolev. Um,
and the Russians, in other words,
And
for
the
the
Russians. Yeah.
Russian money.
Yes, and this would be a money laundering scheme to have bought the house for 40 million. I mean, it's a complicated thing, but it would be a traditional way to launder money. So anyway, um, Epstein confronts Trump about this, and at that point, the investigation of Epstein began, and Epstein began by Epstein believed that it began because Trump notified the police about what was going on at Epstein's house, which Trump was fully aware of because he was a frequent visitor to the house.
So Epstein believed that Donald Trump was an informant, or in Trump's own words, a rat.
Yes.
And Epstein told you this.
He did.
And what was his view of Trump for serving as
frontman,
a snitch?
Yeah, Epstein believed that Trump dropped a dime on him, and that began his legal difficulties. And that's, I think, a significant window into Donald Trump. But perhaps the broader point is that Trump was aware of what was going on in Epstein's house for a very long time before this, and because of that awareness, which he had not previously disclosed, he then used that against Epstein.
But he'd also been a participant, as Epstein showed through the photographs he displayed to you.
Yes, I mean that is all I know is that Donald Trump knew what was going on at Jeffrey Epstein's house. There was a set of photographs in which he was with girls of indeterminate age around Epstein's pool. I mean, let me not go further than that. That's what I know.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, thank you very much again, Michael. And this scandal is hardly over. We're, I think, in the early innings, and we look forward to speaking to you again.
And I look forward to speaking to you guys. Thanks so much.
Well, for the Court of History and for Sean Wilentz, thank you very much for viewing and listening.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.